So far in this training series, we have talked about storing, recalling, automating and managing our scene memories. Now we're going to see how to back them up to external memory and load them into a different RIVAGE PM system. This is File, Load and Save. See the dedicated button in the Setup menu. Use this to access the files on a USB drive. The drive should ideally be 32 gigabytes or smaller, USB 2 or 3 standard and formatted as FAT32 or FAT16. Just one drive can be accessed at a time, inserted either in the front panel USB port or one of the ports on the rear of the console. Before saving the system settings, you can make a new folder with the Make Directory button on the screen. Then select the folder where you want to store the file and press Save. Now you can choose whether to save the entire contents of the console memory or just certain elements of it. For example, you could just save the scene memories or channel libraries, EQ libraries, plugin libraries or setup libraries. But in most cases, it would be good to store everything into one file. When you come to load a file, you can choose which elements to load anyway, so it's not restrictive. Touch Save and give the file a name and a comment if you wish. Notice the file list shows you the time and date of saving, allowing you to sort the files in chronological order. If you have a console file saved from a Yamaha CL or QL series system, the scenes can be converted to load into RIVAGE PM systems. Use the console file converter software, which is free to download from Yamaha's website. It will convert all the compatible audio parameters, including EQ and dynamics, mix sends and effects, channel names and scene names. It won't transfer channel patching, though. Now, if you walk up to a new RIVAGE PM system and you need to load your file, it's an easy thing to do. Even if it's a different size console or DSP engine, the file will load. But if the system has already been set up and some programming done, you may not wish to overwrite everything. So then it would be best to load a range of scenes and libraries rather than the complete file. Let's run through the options. Firstly, if you choose to load all, there's an additional choice for with system settings. If your new system is in its default state, you may wish to load with these settings to save configuration time. Though, if the system has already been set up with its word clock, twin lane, Dante and other network settings, then it would be better to not overwrite them. At least this page gives you a notice about it, and it alerts you if the current system is different to the one the file was created on. Touch Details to list the differences, such as alternative consoles, different DSP engines, I/O units, and option cards. It will mean that you may have to reorganize some of the input and output patching to suit the system. If the newer system is equipped with fewer channels and plugins, the higher numbers will be ignored. However, all RIVAGE PM systems do have the same number of scene memories and libraries available. Then, when you load all, every scene memory and library will be overwritten and replaced. All setups, including recall safe and isolate, monitor and talkback, user-defined keys, preferences, MIDI and GPI, and delay compensation will be reset, as they were when the file was saved. If that's going to overwrite too much data, then consider to load just a selection of scene memories and libraries without the system settings. When you choose to load from the scene list, you see all the scenes from the file in the left column and all the scenes currently in the console on the right. You can select all the scenes from the file or arrange or just one. Then choose where to load. To avoid overwriting anything, enter a direct number which is higher than the existing highest scene. Touch load, then OK, and wait a few seconds for the operation to complete. After that, it could be good to load your own presets from channel libraries, EQs or dynamics, or plugins. Each plugin type has its own library. The scene libraries, by the way, are for overlay and focus. We discussed those helpful functions in an earlier video, so please look it up. The setup functions could certainly be useful. The user setup library in particular. This stores all the preferences, custom fader layers, user-defined knobs, and user-defined keys from the console. And you can store multiple setups in the library, so each console user can have their own settings. Make sure to save your settings in the library so you can load them into another console later without overwriting the existing settings. Useful at a festival where you may be using a house console, but you still want to have a familiar layout. Monitor setup could also be useful. There's no library for this, just one setting, but it is a quick way to load all your favorite settings for the monitor, cue, oscillator, and talkback menus. By the way, any files saved with an earlier version of firmware can be loaded into the system, though it's not always possible to load a file into a system running older firmware. So keep your old backups just in case if you have them. Or if you're creating a new file offline with PM Editor software, it could make sense to use a previous version if the latest one is still quite new and some customers haven't upgraded yet. Now, it's worth noting that the same save and load facilities are found in the PM Editor software for Mac or Windows. So if your computer is online with the system, you can save directly to the computer. If you're working offline, you can load files, edit them, and save them for future use. One more useful way of editing and preparing a show file is to use the CSV export facility, available on the console and in the RIVAGE PM Editor software. It's especially useful for editing channel names, colors, and patch information. You can copy and paste the data to a spreadsheet for quick editing and sharing with the production team. When you export CSV, 11 files are created from the current scene data for all the patch and name lists. Each file contains text data that can be loaded into a standard Office software for editing. If you take a look at the in-patch CSV file, you see the source port and comment for each input channel. Look at the in-name CSV file and you will see the channel name, color, and icon described in each row. This can easily be edited in bulk and loaded back into the console, or just copied and pasted to the production spreadsheets for speeding up workflow and sharing of system information. Once a CSV file is loaded back into the console, remember, you can use the global paste facility in the scene menu to store the names and patches to multiple scenes. Well, that's about all for now. You've learned how to back up your console file and load it safely when visiting another system. I'll be back again soon with more helpful training topics about RIVAGE PM digital mixing systems.